Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. Meet Nathan Carter, a man who seems to have it all: wealth, status, and power. He's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company and the heir to a vast fortune. But behind the sleek suits and polished exterior, Nathan feels empty. The world he's built around himself is a fortress of luxury, but it's a lonely one. Every day is the same: meetings, deals, and endless expectations from his family and business partners. Despite his success, Nathan finds himself yearning for something real, something that makes him feel human. One evening, after another long day of corporate meetings, Nathan's frustration reaches its peak. He's tired of the same routine, tired of being the perfect heir, the perfect CEO. He longs for a break from his perfect life, a chance to do something, anything different. That night, he makes a decision that will change his life forever. He slips on a simple jacket, leaves his penthouse behind, and heads to a small cafe in the city. No bodyguards, no public relations team, just him and the ordinary world he's been avoiding. Inside the cafe, the noise of clinking cups and quiet chatter fills the air, but Nathan feels strangely at ease. He takes a seat at the counter, ordering nothing but a black coffee, something he never usually drinks. He's here to blend in, to feel like a normal person for once. As he sips his coffee, he watches the people around him: students, office workers, and tourists, all of them lost in their own little worlds. For the first time in a long time, Nathan feels like an outsider, but it's a relief. The pressure of being the perfect heir is gone for a moment. Just as he's starting to relax, the door swings open and a young woman walks in. Her name is Lily, and she's nothing like the women Nathan is used to. She's wearing a simple dress, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looks tired but determined as she approaches the counter. Without noticing Nathan, she orders her coffee, and in the process, she accidentally bumps into him. A quiet sorry escapes her lips as she hastily moves to the side. Nathan watches her for a moment, intrigued. There's something about her, something that stands out in the most ordinary way. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's just herself. Lily takes a seat at the table next to him, pulling out a notebook from her bag and beginning to scribble notes. Nathan finds himself staring, captivated by her focus. She doesn't seem to notice him at all. Curiosity gets the best of him. Nathan clears his throat and leans toward her, striking up a conversation. "What's that you're writing?" he asks, his voice casual. Lily looks up, startled, but then smiles. "Just some notes for a project I'm working on," she replies. "It's not much, but I'm trying to get it done before the cafe closes. I work 2 jobs, you know." Nathan feels a wave of guilt wash over him. Here he is, sitting in a luxury cafe, sipping on his expensive coffee, while she works 2 jobs just to get by. There's a humbling honesty in her words that cuts through the walls he's built around himself. He tries to keep the conversation light, but something in him is shifting. He wants to know more about this woman, this ordinary woman, who has no idea who he really is. For the next few hours, they talk. Nathan listens more than he speaks, something he hasn't done in years. They talk about life, dreams, and the simple things that make each day worth living. Lily tells him about her aspirations to become a writer, how she's been struggling to finish her first novel while balancing work and school. Nathan shares a little about his own life, but only the surface stuff, the stuff anyone would say. He doesn't tell her about the wealth, the family pressures, the cold world of business he's always been trapped in. As the night wears on, something unexpected happens. Nathan realizes that, for the first time in a long while, he's actually enjoying himself. He's laughing, he's talking, and he's not worrying about anything. There's no image to uphold, no meetings to prepare for, no deals to close. It's just him, and it feels good. When the cafe closes, Lily stands up, gathering her things. "Well, I should get going," she says, giving him a warm smile. "It was nice talking to you, Nathan." Nathan feels a pang of regret as she turns to leave. "Wait," he calls out, his voice catching her attention. "Can I see you again? Maybe we could grab coffee sometime." Lily hesitates for a moment, then nods. Sure, but only if you promise you're not some fancy CEO trying to make himself feel better. She laughs, the sound light and carefree. Nathan smiles, his heart lighter than it's been in years. I promise, he says. As Lily walks out of the cafe, Nathan watches her go, feeling something he hasn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope for something real. Something that's not about status, money, or expectations. Something that's just about him and her, and whatever may come next. He realizes, as he finishes his coffee alone in the quiet cafe, that this is only the beginning. The beginning of a journey he never expected to take. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. Meet Nathan Carter, a man who seems to have it all: wealth, status, and power. He's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company and the heir to a vast fortune. But behind the sleek suits and polished exterior, Nathan feels empty. The world he's built around himself is a fortress of luxury, but it's a lonely one. Every day is the same: meetings, deals, and endless expectations from his family and business partners. Despite his success, Nathan finds himself yearning for something real, something that makes him feel human. One evening, after another long day of corporate meetings, Nathan's frustration reaches its peak. He's tired of the same routine, tired of being the perfect heir, the perfect CEO. He longs for a break from his perfect life, a chance to do something, anything different. That night, he makes a decision that will change his life forever. He slips on a simple jacket, leaves his penthouse behind, and heads to a small cafe in the city. No bodyguards, no public relations team, just him and the ordinary world he's been avoiding. Inside the cafe, the noise of clinking cups and quiet chatter fills the air, but Nathan feels strangely at ease. He takes a seat at the counter, ordering nothing but a black coffee, something he never usually drinks. He's here to blend in, to feel like a normal person for once. As he sips his coffee, he watches the people around him: students, office workers, and tourists, all of them lost in their own little worlds. For the first time in a long time, Nathan feels like an outsider, but it's a relief. The pressure of being the perfect heir is gone for a moment. Just as he's starting to relax, the door swings open and a young woman walks in. Her name is Lily, and she's nothing like the women Nathan is used to. She's wearing a simple dress, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looks tired but determined as she approaches the counter. Without noticing Nathan, she orders her coffee, and in the process, she accidentally bumps into him. A quiet sorry escapes her lips as she hastily moves to the side. Nathan watches her for a moment, intrigued. There's something about her, something that stands out in the most ordinary way. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's just herself. Lily takes a seat at the table next to him, pulling out a notebook from her bag and beginning to scribble notes. Nathan finds himself staring, captivated by her focus. She doesn't seem to notice him at all. Curiosity gets the best of him. Nathan clears his throat and leans toward her, striking up a conversation. "What's that you're writing?" he asks, his voice casual. Lily looks up, startled, but then smiles. "Just some notes for a project I'm working on," she replies. "It's not much, but I'm trying to get it done before the cafe closes. I work 2 jobs, you know." Nathan feels a wave of guilt wash over him. Here he is, sitting in a luxury cafe, sipping on his expensive coffee, while she works 2 jobs just to get by. There's a humbling honesty in her words that cuts through the walls. He's built around himself. He tries to keep the conversation light, but something in him is shifting. He wants to know more about this woman, this ordinary woman, who has no idea who he really is. For the next few hours, they talk. Nathan listens more than he speaks, something he hasn't done in years. They talk about life, dreams, and the simple things that make each day worth living. Lily tells him about her aspirations to become a writer, how she's been struggling to finish her first novel while balancing work and school. Nathan shares a little about his own life, but only the surface stuff, the stuff anyone would say. He doesn't tell her about the wealth, the family pressures, the cold world of business he's always been trapped in. As the night wears on, something unexpected happens. Nathan realizes that, for the first time in a long while, he's actually enjoying himself. He's laughing, he's talking, and he's not worrying about anything. There's no image to uphold, no meetings to prepare for, no deals to close. It's just him, and it feels good. When the cafe closes, Lily stands up, gathering her things. "Well, I should get going," she says, giving him a warm smile. "It was nice talking to you, Nathan." Nathan feels a pang of regret as she turns to leave. "Wait," he calls out, his voice catching her attention. "Can I see you again? Maybe we could grab coffee sometime." Lily hesitates for a moment, then nods. "Sure, but only if you promise you're not some fancy CEO, trying to make himself feel better." She laughs, the sound light and carefree. Nathan smiles, his heart lighter than it's been in years. "I promise," he says. As Lily walks out of the cafe, Nathan watches her go, feeling something he hasn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope for something real. Something that's not about status, money, or expectations. Something that's just about him and her, and whatever may come next. He realizes, as he finishes his coffee alone in the quiet cafe, that this is only the beginning. The beginning of a journey he never expected to take. After that night at the cafe, Nathan couldn't stop thinking about Lily. The conversation they had was so different from the ones he had with his business associates or family. There was no expectation, no pretense, just two people connecting over simple things. For the first time in a long while, Nathan felt like he could breathe. The following days were a blur of meetings, phone calls, and family obligations, but his mind kept drifting back to the cafe and Lily. Her smile, her laughter, the way she wasn't impressed by his title or wealth. It was a relief. He had always been surrounded by people who treated him like he was something more than human. But with Lily, he was just Nathan. It was a week before he saw her again. Nathan had almost convinced himself that it was all just a fleeting moment, a conversation with a stranger that he'd never follow up on. But then, he received a message from her. It was simple, a short text saying, "Hey, I'm free tomorrow evening. Coffee again." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. He quickly typed out a reply, his fingers moving faster than his thoughts. "I'd love that." The next evening, Nathan found himself at the same cafe, the one that had felt so foreign to him just a week ago. This time, he wasn't there to escape anything. He was there because he genuinely wanted to see Lily again. He arrived early, ordered the same black coffee, and sat by the window, watching the world outside. He tried to keep calm, but a part of him couldn't help but feel nervous. Was this a date? Would he be able to keep up the charade of being just a regular guy? His mind raced with questions. As the door opened, he saw her. Lily walked in, looking as effortless and genuine as ever. She spotted him immediately and smiled. "Hey, Nathan," she said as she approached. "I'm surprised you came back." Nathan smiled, standing up to greet her. "I wouldn't miss it," he said. They both sat down, and once again, the conversation flowed easily. They talked about everything: her writing, his work, life in the city, and the strange feeling of being someone else for a change. Nathan found himself laughing more than he had in weeks. For once, he wasn't worried about his company, his inheritance, or the expectations everyone had for him. It felt freeing. As they chatted, Nathan noticed that Lily seemed more relaxed this time, too. She wasn't as guarded as she had been the first time they met. They shared more personal details, her dreams of traveling, the struggles she faced working 2 jobs, and her love for small cafes like this one. Nathan felt a growing sense of connection with her, something he hadn't felt in years. After a while, Lily looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "You know," she said, "it's strange. You seem like someone who's seen the world, but you're sitting here with me, having coffee like it's no big deal. Most people I know would never do something like this. They'd be too worried about what everyone thinks." Nathan's chest tightened. It was a truth he didn't want to hear, but it was one he couldn't deny. He had always been worried about appearances, about maintaining the image of perfection his family expected from him. But here, in this cafe with Lily, he didn't need to maintain anything. He was just Nathan. "I guess I've spent so much time building a life for everyone else. I forgot to build one for myself," he said quietly. "I'm not sure who I am anymore, except for what others expect me to be." Lily smiled softly, her eyes full of understanding. "I get that. It's easy to lose yourself when you're constantly trying to meet other people's standards. But you deserve to find your own happiness. I think we all do." Nathan nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. She was right. For so long, he had lived for others. But now, sitting across from Lily, he realized he had to start living for himself. They talked for hours that evening, and as the cafe started to close, Lily stood up to leave. Thanks for tonight, Nathan. I really needed this. Nathan stood as well, a small smile playing on his lips. I think I needed it too, he said. See you again soon? Definitely, Lily said with a wink before heading out the door. Nathan watched her leave, feeling a sense of warmth spread through him. This was the start of something real. Something that had nothing to do with his family's wealth, his business empire, or his responsibilities. It was about him and Lily, two people who had connected over something simple and true. And for the first time in a long time, Nathan felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. As Nathan walked out of the cafe and into the cool night air, he realized that, in just a short time, Lily had become someone important to him. He wasn't sure where this would lead, but for the first time in years, he was excited to find out. The next few days passed by in a blur for Nathan. He couldn't stop thinking about Lily, about how effortlessly she made him feel human again. Each time he closed his eyes, he found himself replaying their conversations, the way she made him laugh, and the way her words made him reflect on his life. For the first time, he found himself looking forward to something outside of his business empire, something personal, something real. Nathan couldn't remember the last time he had felt this way, this light, this free. It felt like a new beginning. He found himself doing things differently now. He started skipping a few of the more routine meetings, taking walks in the park instead. He would grab a coffee on his own, no bodyguards in sight, and sit on a bench, just watching people go by. For the first time in years, he wasn't surrounded by his family's expectations or his company's demands. It was a strange, almost rebellious freedom, but it felt right, as if he was finally finding himself outside of the role he had been playing for so long. Then, one evening, Lily invited him to dinner at a small, cozy restaurant she loved. Nathan felt a sense of nervous excitement as he prepared for the evening. This wasn't just another casual meeting. This felt like something more. As he arrived at the restaurant, he saw Lily waiting at a corner table, her back to the door. She looked up as he entered, her face lighting up with a smile that made his heart skip a beat. Nathan sat down, and they exchanged pleasantries, but there was an unspoken tension in the air. He could tell that she felt it too. It was the kind of tension that only existed when two people knew that something was beginning to change between them. The conversation flowed easily at first, as it always did. They talked about work, the city, their favorite books, but as the evening wore on, the tone shifted. Lily looked at him thoughtfully, her fork paused in midair. You know, she said, I've been thinking about this, I mean. I don't really know what this is yet, but I do know it feels different. I've never met anyone like you before, Nathan. He stared at her for a moment, surprised by the honesty in her words. It wasn't just the way she was speaking, it was the way she was looking at him. For the first time, Nathan felt vulnerable, but in a good way. He had always kept himself guarded, hidden behind his status, but here, with Lily, he didn't feel the need to hide anything. I know what you mean, Nathan said quietly. I've never met anyone like you either. And for the first time, I don't feel like I have to be anything more than who I am in this moment. It's just refreshing. He paused, searching for the right words. I've spent so much of my life living up to other people's expectations, and I never really stopped to think about what I want, what I need. Lily reached across the table, placing her hand over his. Maybe that's the problem, she said softly. You've been so busy meeting everyone else's needs that you've forgotten to take care of your own. You deserve to have something real, something that isn't tied to your name or your money. Nathan looked at their hands, the warmth of her touch making him feel more connected than ever. He hadn't realized just how much he had been living for others. The weight of his inheritance, the pressures of his family, it all seemed so trivial now. What mattered was this moment. What mattered was Lily. The evening continued with more laughter, more conversation, and a deepening connection that both of them could feel. But as the night came to an end, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to shift in their relationship. They stood outside the restaurant, the cool night air brushing against them. Can I walk you home? Nathan asked, his voice unsure but sincere. Lily smiled, nodding. I'd like that, she said. They walked together through the quiet streets, the city lights casting long shadows on the pavement. For once, Nathan didn't feel the pressure of being the heir to a fortune. He didn't feel like the CEO of a major corporation. He felt like Nathan. Just Nathan. And for the first time, that was enough. As they reached her apartment, they stopped in front of the door. There was a pause, a moment of uncertainty. Between them, Nathan found himself wanting to say something. Something that would bridge the gap between the man he had been and the man he was becoming. Lily looked up at him, her eyes warm and inviting. "Thank you for tonight, Nathan. It's nice to feel normal for once." Nathan smiled, his heart full. "No, thank you. For making me feel like I'm more than just a name. For reminding me what it means to live for yourself." They stood there for a moment, their faces inches apart, but Nathan didn't lean in for a kiss. Instead, he simply gave her a soft smile, one that spoke more than words could. "Good night, Lily," he said. "Good night, Nathan." As Nathan walked away, he felt something shift within him. He didn't know where this was headed, but he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer just the heir. He was Nathan, a man who had finally started to live for himself. The days that followed felt like a dream to Nathan. For the first time in years, he was living without the pressure of his family's expectations, without the heavy weight of being the heir to a fortune. He spent more time with Lily, discovering new layers to their connection. Their bond was growing stronger, and Nathan found himself looking forward to every moment they shared, whether it was a quiet coffee or a spontaneous walk through the city. He realized how much he had been missing in his life. The simple joys, the genuine connections that weren't influenced by money or status. However, the reality of his world began to creep in. One evening, as Nathan was finishing up some paperwork at his office, his assistant, Claire, walked in with a concerned look on her face. "Mr. Carter, your father is requesting to see you immediately. He says it's urgent," she said, her voice hesitant. Nathan sighed, the familiar sense of dread settling in. He hadn't seen his father in over a week. They had always been at odds, especially after Nathan had decided to take more control of his own life. His father's idea of urgent usually involved a new business deal or a family obligation that Nathan wanted no part in. But he couldn't avoid him forever. He knew this meeting was inevitable. He left the office and headed to his father's mansion. The drive was long, and the tension in the air was palpable. Nathan's thoughts kept drifting back to Lily and their time together. He felt guilty for not telling her about his family, about the life he had been born into. But he knew that if he did, she might see him differently, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for that. So he kept it to himself for now, afraid of what it might mean for their budding relationship. When he arrived at his father's mansion, the grandiose building felt like a fortress. The tall gates, the marble floors, the gold-trimmed walls, it was all so overwhelming. He had grown up in this house, but it never felt like home. It was just a place where expectations were high, and love was a distant idea. Nathan walked through the corridors, his footsteps echoing in the vast silence, until he reached his father's study. His father, Edward Carter, was sitting behind a massive oak desk, his posture as rigid as always. He looked up when Nathan entered, his face a mix of seriousness and irritation. "Nathan, sit down," he commanded. Nathan did as he was told, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being a child again, sitting in front of his father's judgmental gaze. "What's so urgent, father?" Nathan asked, his tone laced with frustration. Edward leaned forward, folding his hands. "We need to talk about your future. I've arranged a meeting with the board next week to discuss your role in the company. It's time for you to step up. You can't keep running away from your responsibilities." Nathan's heart sank. He had known this conversation was coming, but hearing it again made him realize just how trapped he felt in his family's world. "I don't want to take over the company, father," he said, his voice steady but resolute. "I've been doing this for years, and it's never been what I want. I want something different." Edward's eyes narrowed, his expression turning cold. "You don't get to choose what you want, Nathan. You are a Carter. You have responsibilities. You can't just abandon everything because you're tired of it. The company needs you, the family needs you." Nathan shook his head, standing up. "No, father. You need me. You need me to be the person you've always wanted me to be. But that's not me. I'm not going to spend my life running a company I don't care about, just to please you or anyone else." The room fell into a heavy silence. Nathan's words hung in the air, and for the first time, he felt the weight of his decision. Edward didn't respond right away. but his disappointed look spoke volumes. Nathan turned and walked out of the study, his mind swirling with confusion and frustration. He had always known that he would have to choose between his family and his own happiness, but now it was becoming a reality. As he drove back to his apartment, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling of defeat. He had made his decision, but at what cost? Would he lose his family for good? Would they ever understand that he couldn't live the life they wanted for him? And what about Lily? Would she still want to be with him if she knew the full extent of his struggles? He didn't have the answers, but one thing was clear: he couldn't go back. He had to move forward, even if it meant facing the consequences of his choices. As he pulled into his parking garage, Nathan took a deep breath. He was still uncertain about his future, but he knew one thing for sure: he couldn't keep living a life that wasn't his own. That night, he called Lily. He needed to talk to her, to be with someone who made him feel like he was finally being true to himself. He picked up his phone, his fingers hovering over the screen for a moment before he dialed her number. "Hey, Nathan." Lily's voice came through the phone, warm and inviting. "What's up? Can I see you?" Nathan asked, his voice full of emotion. "I need to talk." "Of course," Lily replied. "I'll be here. Come over whenever you're ready." As Nathan made his way to her apartment, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. He didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, he knew he was doing the right thing. Whatever happened next, he was finally living for himself. As Nathan arrived at Lily's apartment, the familiar weight of his decisions seemed to lift, just a little. The walk from his car to her door felt different tonight. Lighter, freer, as if he were finally on the right path. He had just walked away from his father's mansion, the weight of his family's expectations still heavy in his chest, but he felt more like himself than ever before. He had chosen to follow his own path, and tonight, he was going to share that truth with Lily. He knocked gently on the door, his heart racing a bit. After a few moments, Lily appeared, her face lighting up when she saw him. There was something about her warmth, her presence, that immediately made everything feel okay again. She stepped aside to let him in, her smile soft and welcoming. "Hey, Nathan," she said softly, closing the door behind him. "Everything okay? You sounded like you needed to talk." Her tone was gentle, but Nathan could see the concern in her eyes. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Yeah, I needed to see you. I've been dealing with a lot, and I don't know who else to talk to." Lily nodded, guiding him to the couch. "Of course. You know you can talk to me, right? Whatever it is." She sat down beside him, her eyes never leaving his face, waiting for him to open up. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, gathering his thoughts. "I talked to my father tonight. It didn't go well." He paused, his voice betraying the frustration and uncertainty that had built up inside him. "He wants me to take over the company. He thinks I should follow in his footsteps, continue the family legacy. But I can't do that, Lily. I don't want to do that." He sighed, his shoulders slumping. "I don't even know who I am anymore, outside of what they want me to be. I've spent my whole life living for their expectations." He looked at her, searching for any kind of understanding. Lily didn't say anything at first. She just sat there, her eyes locked on his, taking in everything he was saying. Then, slowly, she reached over and took his hand in hers, squeezing it gently. "Nathan, you've always been more than what other people expect from you. You have to see that. You're more than just your family's name, more than your company. You have your own dreams, your own life to live." Her words felt like a balm on his soul, and Nathan let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "I've been running from it all, hiding behind this perfect image. But now that I've taken a step back, I'm realizing that I don't even know who I am without all of that. I've been so consumed with living up to their image of me that I forgot what makes me happy. I forgot what I really want." He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "And the worst part is, I'm scared that if I let go of that, I'll have nothing left." His voice cracked, and for the first time in a long while, Nathan felt vulnerable. His walls were coming down, and it terrified him. Lily didn't hesitate. She leaned in, her voice soft but steady. "Nathan, you don't need to be anyone else. You're already enough. You don't have to be the CEO, or the perfect son, or whatever they want you to be. You just need to be you. You've got everything inside you already, the strength, the heart, the passion. You just have to trust yourself to follow it." She smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile. "And you don't have to figure everything out all at once. You're not alone in this. You've got me." Her words wrapped around him like a warm embrace. Nathan's eyes filled with emotion, and for a moment, he felt the weight of everything he had been carrying for so long start to lift. It wasn't just the company or the family pressures, it was the fear of losing himself in the process. But with Lily, it felt different. She wasn't asking him to be anything other than what he already was. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with gratitude. "I've been so lost, but hearing you say that, it makes me think maybe I can do this. Maybe I can find my own way." He squeezed her hand, his heart racing with hope. Lily smiled again, her eyes soft and full of warmth. "You can. I know you can. And you don't have to do it alone. I'm here, Nathan. Always." She leaned in then, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead, her touch lingering. It was a simple gesture, but it made Nathan feel more seen, more understood than he had in years. For a moment, the world outside seemed to fade away. There was no company, no family drama, no legacy he had to live up to. It was just him and Lily, two people who had found something real in the midst of their own struggles. Nathan wasn't sure what the future held, but he knew that, for the first time in a long while, he was on the right path. And as long as Lily was by his side, he could face whatever came next. As the evening wore on, they talked more, but the pressure that had been weighing Nathan down was gone. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he could breathe. And with that, he realized that maybe, just maybe, he had finally found his way out of the maze he had been trapped in for so long. The days that followed were a mix of relief and uncertainty for Nathan. The conversation with Lily had left him feeling lighter, but the reality of his decision still loomed large. He had told his father that he couldn't take over the family business, that he was no longer going to live his life based on other people's expectations. But even as he stood firm in his resolve, there was a part of him that was still unsure. Would his family accept his choice? Would he be able to carve out a life for himself away from the legacy that had defined him for so long? Every day, Nathan grew more determined to find the answer. He spent less time in the office and more time reflecting on what he truly wanted. He had always been driven by the need to prove himself, to prove that he could succeed without relying on his family's wealth or influence. But now, as he stood at the crossroads of his life, he realized that success wasn't just about making money or climbing the corporate ladder. It was about finding purpose, finding meaning in his relationships, in the moments that mattered. And one of those moments, without a doubt, was with Lily. She had become the most important part of his life, not just because of the way she made him feel, but because she made him believe in something he had long forgotten, the possibility of real connection. He didn't have all the answers, but being with her made him feel like he could finally begin to figure things out. One evening, as Nathan sat in his apartment, staring out over the city, he received a text from Lily. "Hey, are you free tonight? I was thinking we could grab a drink. Just the two of us." Nathan smiled at the message. After everything he had been through, the simplicity of the request felt like a gift. He immediately typed a reply. "I'd love that. I'll meet you at the usual place." When Nathan arrived at the bar, Lily was already there, sitting at a corner table by the window. The light from the street lamp outside cast a warm glow across her face, making her look even more beautiful than he remembered. She smiled when she saw him, her eyes bright with anticipation. "I'm glad you could make it," she said, her voice warm and inviting. "I've been thinking a lot lately, Nathan. About us, about everything." Nathan sat down across from her, feeling a flutter in his chest. He could sense the weight of her words, but he didn't want to rush things. "What about us?" he asked gently. Lily took a deep breath before answering. "I think we both know that things aren't always going to be easy. We both have our own baggage, our own fears, and our own dreams. But when I'm with you, I feel like anything is possible. I feel like we could build something together, something real, and I want to try. I don't want to let fear stop me from living the life I want." Nathan felt a lump form in his throat. Her words were everything he had been hoping for, everything he had wanted to hear. For so long, he had been afraid of letting anyone in, afraid that his life was too complicated for someone like Lily to understand. But now, sitting across from her, he realized that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as broken as he thought. Maybe they could figure this out together. "I've been afraid too," Nathan confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Afraid of losing everything. My family, my identity, my legacy. But I know that if I don't make a change, I'll lose myself. And I don't want to lose who I am." You make me feel like I can find that person again. You make me want to be a better man, for myself and for us. Lily reached across the table, placing her hand over his. We'll figure it out together, Nathan. We'll take it one step at a time. And whatever happens, we'll have each other. As they sat together, the conversation flowing freely between them, Nathan realized that this was the moment he had been waiting for. He had spent so many years chasing after a life that wasn't his own, trying to be someone he wasn't. But now, with Lily by his side, he felt ready to take the next step. He was no longer living for other people's expectations. He was living for himself. The night passed in a blur of laughter and connection, the kind of deep, meaningful connection that Nathan had been craving for so long. When it was time to say goodbye, Nathan kissed Lily gently on the cheek, his heart swelling with emotion. Thank you for being here, he whispered, his voice full of sincerity. Thank you for believing in me. Lily smiled, her eyes shining with affection. Thank you for letting me in, Nathan. I'm proud of you. As Nathan walked back to his apartment, the city lights shining brightly in the distance, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, he felt ready to face it. He wasn't sure what the future would hold, but he knew that with Lily by his side, he could take on anything. He finally understood what it meant to live for himself, to choose his own path, to embrace who he truly was, and to love without fear. And as he lay down to sleep that night, he couldn't help but feel that he was exactly where he was meant to be. Days turned into weeks, and Nathan felt the weight of his decision growing heavier, yet somehow more manageable. His relationship with Lily deepened, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was truly living for himself, not for the legacy or the expectations others had placed on him. But as much as he tried to stay true to his new path, there was still a constant pull from his family, from his father, who refused to let go of the idea that Nathan would eventually take over the family business. One morning, Nathan received a call from Claire, his assistant. Mr. Carter, your father is requesting another meeting. He says it's urgent, she said, her voice hesitant, as always. Nathan closed his eyes. For a moment, already anticipating the conversation. He hadn't seen his father in weeks, and the tension between them was growing. He could feel the pressure building inside him. Nathan knew what was coming. His father would never accept his decision easily. He would try to convince him again, play on his sense of duty and family pride, remind him of the legacy he was supposed to uphold. Nathan had heard it all before. But now, after everything he had shared with Lily, after finding his own voice, he wasn't sure he could go back to being the man his father wanted him to be. As he walked into his father's office that afternoon, Nathan's stomach tightened. The grand, polished space felt cold and impersonal, a stark contrast to the warmth he had felt in Lily's company. Edward Carter, his father, was sitting behind his desk, as always, his eyes hard and focused. Nathan, he said, his voice clipped. Sit down. His tone made it clear that this was not going to be a casual conversation. Nathan sat, trying to remain calm. What's this about, father? He asked, keeping his voice steady. Edward didn't waste any time. I'm giving you one last chance, Nathan. I've arranged everything. The board is ready to vote, and it's time for you to step up. You've wasted enough time on this self-discovery nonsense. You're a Carter, and it's time to act like it. His words hit Nathan like a slap in the face. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest. He had heard this speech before, but today, it felt different. He could feel the tension in his body, the anger rising up within him. I can't do it, father. I can't keep living for you, for the business, for everyone else's expectations. I've tried, but it's never been what I want. His voice was firm now, more confident than ever before. I'm not going to take over the company. I'm not going to be the man you want me to be. His words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Edward's face turned ashen, his expression one of disbelief. You don't understand, Nathan, he said, his voice shaking slightly with anger. This company, this family, it's everything. You can't just walk away from it. It's your responsibility. There was a moment of silence before he continued, his voice cold. You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back when you realize how much you've lost. The words stung, but Nathan didn't flinch. Nathan stood up, looking his father square in the eye. I don't regret it. I've spent my whole life trying to live up to your expectations, and all it's done is make me miserable. I need to find my own way, even if it means walking away from everything you think I should be. His voice softened, but there was no doubt in his words. "I'm sorry, but this is who I am now, and I won't apologize for it." Edward remained silent, his jaw clenched tightly. There was nothing more to say. Nathan had made his decision, and his father's disappointment was palpable, but Nathan couldn't let it sway him any longer. As he turned and walked out of his father's office, he felt the weight lift from his shoulders. It wasn't the end he had hoped for, but it was the end he had needed. He was no longer trapped in the life his father had planned for him. Later that evening, Nathan found himself walking to Lily's apartment. He needed to talk to her, needed her comfort and her understanding. When she opened the door, her smile was warm and welcoming, and for the first time in a long while, Nathan felt truly at home. "I did it," he said, his voice full of relief. I told my father I wasn't going to take over the company. I don't know what's next, but I feel free." Lily's face lit up, her eyes full of pride and affection. "I'm so proud of you, Nathan," she said, taking his hand. "You made the right choice. You're living for yourself now, not for anyone else." She pulled him into a hug, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Nathan felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Nathan realized that no matter what happened next, he had already made the most important decision of his life. He had chosen to be true to himself, and with Lily by his side, he knew he could face whatever the future held. Weeks passed, and Nathan settled into his new life, one that was no longer dictated by the weight of his family's expectations. He spent more time with Lily, savoring the moments that felt real and genuine. They explored the city together, walked through parks, and visited small galleries. Lily encouraged him to pursue his passion for architecture, something he had long buried under the pressure of the business world. With her support, he began sketching plans for a small project, a design for a community center that he had always dreamed of creating. It wasn't much, but it was his, and that was enough. But even as he embraced this new chapter, the tension with his family lingered. His father hadn't spoken to him since their confrontation. Nathan had expected that, but what surprised him was how little it bothered him now. For years, he had feared losing his father's approval, but now he realized that the most important approval he needed was his own. His relationship with Lily was growing stronger each day, and she had become a rock for him, someone who believed in him when he couldn't always believe in himself. One evening, as Nathan and Lily sat on the couch in his apartment, sipping wine and talking about their plans for the future, Nathan's phone buzzed. It was a message from his mother. "Nathan, your father wants to see you. Please come to the house. It's important." Nathan stared at the message for a moment, a sense of unease settling in his chest. He hadn't spoken to his father in weeks, and he wasn't sure he was ready to face him again. But something told him that this wasn't a conversation he could avoid. Lily noticed his hesitation and placed her hand on his. "You don't have to go if you're not ready. I'm here for you, no matter what happens." Her words were comforting, but Nathan knew this was something he needed to do, for himself and for his father. He took a deep breath, stood up, and grabbed his coat. As he drove to his father's house, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling of dread. The grand mansion loomed before him, the place where so many of his childhood memories had been shaped. But now, it felt more like a prison than a home. He parked his car and walked up to the front door, his heart pounding in his chest. When he rang the bell, the door was opened by his mother, who gave him a soft, welcoming smile. "Come in, Nathan," she said. "Your father's waiting for you in the study." Inside the study, Edward Carter sat behind his desk, as always. The room was meticulously arranged, every item in its place, a reflection of the control he had always tried to maintain over his life. Nathan stood in the doorway for a moment, taking in the scene. His father looked up at him, his expression unreadable. "Nathan," Edward said, his voice surprisingly calm. "Sit down." Nathan took a seat across from him, the tension in the air palpable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Edward broke the silence. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about your decision to leave the company. At first, I was furious. I didn't understand it. But now I realize that you've done what you think is best for you. I may not agree with it, but I can respect it." Nathan stared at his father, stunned. This was not the response he had expected. For years, Edward had tried to control every aspect of his life, pushing him toward the future he had planned. But now, it seemed like something had changed. "I'm not saying I'm happy about it," Edward continued, his voice still steady. But you're an adult, and you have the right to make your own choices. I just hope you know that your family will always be here for you, even if we don't understand your decisions. Nathan sat in silence, processing his father's words. For so long, he had been desperate for his father's approval, but now, hearing these words, he realized that he didn't need it. He had already made his choice, and for the first time, he was comfortable with it. I appreciate that, Father, Nathan said, his voice steady. And I know that we may not always see eye to eye, but I'm learning to trust myself. I'm learning to live my own life. Edward nodded, his gaze softening for a moment. I'm glad to hear that, he said quietly. Just don't forget who you are, Nathan. You're a Carter, and that means something. But you're also you, and that's more important. There was a long pause before he added, I hope you find what you're looking for. Nathan nodded, standing up. I will. I'm already starting to. He turned to leave the room, but then paused and looked back at his father. Thank you, Dad, he said, his voice quiet but sincere. As Nathan walked out of the mansion and into the cool evening air, he felt a sense of closure he hadn't expected. His father had finally accepted his decision, and for the first time, Nathan felt like he was truly free. He wasn't bound by anyone's expectations anymore. He was free to live his own life, on his own terms. Later that evening, Nathan met Lily at a small café. As he sat down across from her, he couldn't help but smile. The weight he had carried for so long had finally lifted. I talked to my father, he said. It wasn't easy, but I think we're starting to understand each other. Lily reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. I'm proud of you, Nathan, she said softly. You're doing the right thing, for yourself. And as they sat there together, Nathan realized that no matter what came next, he had already found something far more important than approval or legacy. He had found himself. As the weeks passed, Nathan found himself more at peace with the choices he had made. His relationship with Lily grew deeper, and they spent more time building a life together. For the first time in his life, Nathan felt truly happy, free from the expectations that had once held him captive. He was no longer the heir to a vast fortune. He was just Nathan, an individual with his own dreams and desires, and he was finally living for himself. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through the city, Nathan couldn't help but smile at the thought of how far he had come. A few months ago, he had been trapped in a life he didn't choose, struggling to live up to the legacy of his family. Now, he had found something more meaningful, something real. He had found love, freedom, and a sense of purpose. Lily glanced over at him, sensing his contentment. What are you thinking about? She asked softly. Nathan squeezed her hand and looked into her eyes. I was just thinking about how much things have changed. I never thought I would get to this point. I spent so many years trying to be someone else, trying to live up to other people's expectations. And now I'm finally living for myself. He paused, his voice full of gratitude. I couldn't have done it without you. Lily smiled, her heart swelling with affection. You did all the hard work, Nathan. I was just here to remind you that you're already enough, just as you are. Nathan stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious but full of emotion. I know I don't say this enough, but I love you, Lily. You've made me feel more alive than I ever thought possible. You've shown me that it's okay to be vulnerable, to follow my heart. Her eyes softened, and she reached up to touch his cheek. I love you too, Nathan. You've always had the strength inside you. You just needed to believe in yourself. For a moment, they stood there, the world around them fading into the background as they shared a quiet, intimate moment. It felt like everything had fallen into place. Nathan had faced his fears, confronted his family, and, most importantly, he had chosen his own path. He no longer felt defined by the legacy of his family's wealth. He was his own person now. As they walked back to their apartment, Nathan felt a sense of calm settle over him. He was no longer running from anything. He had made peace with his past, and he was looking forward to the future, a future with Lily by his side. Later that evening, after a quiet dinner together, Nathan sat down at his desk and began to sketch out a blueprint for the community center project he had always dreamed of. It wasn't just about architecture. It was about creating something meaningful, something that would make a difference in people's lives. It was his way of giving back, of using his skills for something that mattered. As he worked, he felt a surge of purpose. He wasn't just designing buildings. He was building a life that was his own, shaped by his choices and his values. And in that moment, Nathan knew that this was only the beginning. He had taken control of his own destiny, and the road ahead, though uncertain, was full of promise. As he closed his sketchbook that night, he looked over at Lily, who was sitting on the couch, reading a book. A sense of peace washed over him. He had found everything he had been searching for: love, freedom, and the courage to live authentically. And with Lily by his side, he knew he was ready for whatever came next. The journey he had started was just beginning, and for the first time, Nathan felt truly alive. He was no longer just the heir to a family fortune. He was Nathan, an individual with his own story to write. And the best part? He was no longer writing that story alone.